Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you're a Facebook member, shoot on over to Wrestler Unstoppable. If you're sick and tired of paying $60 to $100 every year for the newest, latest, greatest wrestling game, don't do it anymore. Oh, go over to Wrestler Unstoppable on Facebook today. Customize your own wrestler. Get involved in storylines. Join companies, sign contracts, and headline pay-per-views. Game Wrestler Unstoppable on Facebook. While you're at it, shoot over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We are live at the Quakertown Farmers Market for Worldwide Wrestling Alliance action tonight. Already in the ring, we have King Blackie, who has become a huge favorite of Worldwide Wrestling Alliance fans, and we have great action here at the Quakertown Farmers Market every fourth Saturday of the month. Make sure you stop by and check it out if you have never been to one of their shows. They are fantastic, jam-packed with action, tons of talent, and if you are not familiar with the independent scene in the northeastern part of the country, specifically in southeastern Pennsylvania, you're really missing out. There's a lot of great action here at the Q-Mart. This episode, we're going to try to go through some of the news and rumors in the world of professional wrestling. We'll cover some of the action here at the Quakertown Farmers Market. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, things you want us to address in a future episode, by all means, give us a shout out at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160. Give us your questions, your comments, anything that you would like us to bring up, and we'll be more than happy to include those things in a future episode. And while you're at it, if you've never been there before, check out our homepage is ProWrestling.com, where you can see all the topics we're going to discuss in future episodes, see all of our interview segments we've done in the past, some of our best episodes, as well as get to know some of the talents that we work with on the independent wrestling scene at our indie talent booking page. So, before we get started with all the news of the night, just had a huge segment set up for a future show where we just had King Blackie, after winning his match out here, threw down a challenge to Leo Sweet, the High Impact Champion. He wants a championship match. It looked like everything was all good. They shook on it, and then King Blackie with the sneak attack on Leo Sweet, who's laid out in the ring right now. So we're going to get into some of the news of the day while we have Mike Goldstein in the ring making his presence felt. Great star here in the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance. In the news this week, Bobby Roode to Global Force Wrestling. Yes, you heard me say that right. They actually had a story break about him returning to Global Force Wrestling, and it was bizarre because there were fans who thought, what happened? He hasn't been on SmackDown the last couple of weeks, and they thought, is there something going on? No, actually, this is the Global Force Wrestling episodes that were recorded roughly 3 years ago that are just now being broadcast in 4 different segments as GFW Amped. And in those episodes, Bobby Roode was still very much an active member of the GFW roster. Unfortunately, it took them 3 years to publish these so that people could see them, and now they're representing it. They even dubbed over the announcer's audio, trying to make it sound like Bobby Roode, former NXT champion, and he's, now he's on SmackDown, but now he's back in Global Force Wrestling. No, he's not. He never left WWE. Just one of those things that Global Force Wrestling is doing to try to bring some attention to their product. Absolutely bizarre. I think there's too many people who actually believe these stories when they come out, but no, Bobby Roode absolutely still with the SmackDown brand, getting set for his very first in-ring feud with Dolph Ziggler. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But in the immediate future, yes, Bobby Roode still with the WWE and not with Global Force Wrestling. Those are old episodes 3 years ago that they are just now bringing to television. Speaking of talents in the WWE, the big news this week was the back-and-forth banter between the Hardy Boys and the Young Bucks. So the Young Bucks are making comments on Twitter about WWE Starrcade taking place November 25th, where the Hardys are booked to appear at the show but do not have a publicized opponent. The Young Bucks right away were interested in making that happen, and it seemed at first like it was some playful back-and-forth banter between the Bucks and the Hardys to see if they could make something happen. To my complete surprise, the Young Bucks' last tweet on the matter stated that they had freed up that night and they could make an appearance at that show. Now, of course, I don't expect it to happen, but if WWE is trying to establish a relationship with Ring of Honor, and yet there was, the very public comments from Cody Rhodes about going to that same show since a pay-per-view that his father, oh big move by Mike Goldstein. It was a pay-per-view that his father helped design back in the 80s, with all the conversation about potentially bringing Cody back for that show as Ring of Honor World Champion to team with his brother Dustin Rhodes, or Gold Dust, or however he'd appear at that show. It would be no less shocking to see the Young Bucks show up for a one-off if they could work out an agreement with Ring of Honor. I don't expect it to happen. I don't think any big smart marks expect it to happen. But if Vince McMahon really wanted to blow the minds of the people, and if he wanted to turn this from a Starrcade house show into a legitimate pay-per-view or a WWE Network exclusive, this would be a great way to do it, because people would pay through the nose to see the Young Bucks in a WWE ring against the Hardys. It's what we were hoping to see last year in Ring of Honor, and it kind of was dumbed down because of all the issues with Anthem and the Hardys' broken characters. But with the Hardys becoming more and more awoken as of late, I think it would be a great opportunity to showcase the awoken characters versus the Young Bucks in a very unique situation, almost a year to the day from when the Apocalyptico match aired on Impact Wrestling. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. We're going to go back to the ring and watch some more action. We'll be back in a little bit with some more news and reviews in the world of pro wrestling. So we're back. We have our WWWA World Tag Team Champions, Wyndham James Winthrop III and Blitzkrieg, taking on the Silver Foxes, a tag team that if you've never seen them, two relatively older gentlemen, but who put on a great show. They really get the crowd going. They are the Team USA for this particular match. I think they do that on purpose. Pretty much anybody who's against Blitzkrieg and Wyndham James Winthrop III automatically becomes Team USA in every encounter. But Blitzkrieg and Winthrop have won the Tag Team Championship for the better part of 2 months now. They're a great tag team. They work well together. Blitzkrieg is a stalwart of the Northeast wrestling scene. He does shows all up and down the East Coast. This is actually one of the few times I've seen the Silver Foxes in WWWA. They typically wrestle elsewhere. I'm curious to see what happens in this tag team match, but for those who've never been to a WWWA show, I encourage you to check them out online at YouTube and any place else that you can find matches. I encourage you to check them out on YouTube, on Daily Motion. There's several places you can find their matches. Do a Google search for their different talents, and you will find their matches highly entertaining without having to pay the kind of price you pay to go to see a WWE show. You can hear the crowd reaction here. The crowd is actually really into this tag team. She's doing a great job. These guys are very entertaining. Back to the news for the week. Goldberg was in the news this week. He spoke to WWE.com, and they had a variety of things to talk about, primarily his 20th anniversary of his debut with WCW, but more importantly, the question was posed, will he make a return to WWE at any time? And his answer was priceless. He said, you'd have to talk to your boss, but it wouldn't take me as long to get ready to go to the ring this time as it did last time, so we'll have to wait and see. Big news coming from Goldberg. That tells me that he's not shutting the door on coming back. I would actually anticipate they may get him to do something perhaps at the Royal Rumble, something where he wouldn't have to be involved in a long, lengthy program like he did with the Brock Lesnar situation, but definitely a positive for those who want to see him in the WWE ring one more time. In additional news, KUSHIDA is in the news this week as he has called out that he would love to wrestle Daniel Bryan. Once his contract is up with World Wrestling Entertainment next September, he would love to get into a ring with him in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's a match I think many people would love to see, something we haven't seen in the past, and something where the premier cruiserweight or light heavyweight wrestler in the world right now, KUSHIDA, would have an opportunity to work with someone who has been known the world over, but who got his start as a light heavyweight in New Japan Pro Wrestling, as well as other independent promotions, Ring of Honor and the such, the Texas Wrestling Association. But at the beginning, Daniel Bryan was so much of a smaller guy, he competed in New Japan Pro Wrestling with Curryman, also known as Christopher Daniels, as a tag team who challenged for the New Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Tag Team Championship. This would be the first time Daniel Bryan would be going back to the promotion in many, many years, but I would love to see a match with Kushida and Daniel Bryan at the same time. What a dream match that would be. We have to keep our eyes on it because it is clear that Daniel Bryan is absolutely planning a return to the ring at some point. It'll be curious to see whether that happens in September as soon as his contract expires. It's one of those things where it's not like he's been released and he has to wait a 90-day no-compete clause. In the situation of his contract expiring, many times that does not apply. It'll be curious to see if WWE finds a way to renew him or extend him or make him stay longer. Hopefully not for the wrestling fans who want to see him in a ring again. It's to the point now where he's had enough therapy and there's been enough experts talking about his current condition after all his post-concussion syndrome that it sounds like he's got the green light to wrestle again. If that's the case, then I anticipate that it will happen at some point. And now his wife, Brie Bella, also on board with him making a return to the ring, which should tell you the confidence they have in the different medical professionals who have ruled on Daniel Bryan's ability to return to the ring. All right, we're back for some more news and rumors in the world of professional wrestling. There was a short break there, but we're back. There's a great match in the ring right now. They're getting ready for King Kalua taking on Slim Whiskey, taking on Roadblock. 3 stalwarts of the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance roster. Should be a great match. Getting back to some of the news of the day, Rob Van Dam was doing an interview. There was a conversation about whether or not he has been in negotiations with WWE to make a return, and he made it clear that he has been in contact with WWE, but not about a return, more about video games, franchises, making appearances in 2K18 and that kind of thing. But that when the time is right and when the angle and the storyline is right, he would be willing to make a return to the promotion. It's something I think a lot of fans would like to see. The only concern is it seems like there's been a pattern, with the exception of Chris Jericho. A lot of these wrestlers who come back for the shorter stints seem to come in and job out to just about everybody. I mean, in all seriousness, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rob Van Dam return and then be losing to people like Aiden English, and that's not something fans want to see. I think if they bring him back, it has to be something meaningful. I would love to see him come back, do something perhaps at the Royal Rumble, do something, leading into a program, maybe even a ladder match at WrestleMania or something of that nature. But I really am not interested in seeing someone who I really look at as being one of the best wrestlers in the world coming in and being fodder for the mid-card. It's ridiculous. He's a quality wrestler. He's a name that people recognize, they can identify with. He's an ECW original who still garners a lot of that popularity. It's something I want to see him do something of substance, not just come in and be one more guy lost in the shuffle, which is a problem WWE has a lot of right now with many of their talents. So definitely something I think more than likely, again, similar to the Goldberg situation, something where you may see him at a Royal Rumble, maybe a Chris Jericho doing something of that nature. But I don't know that we'll ever see Rob Van Dam work a long-term program unless they can come up with something extraordinarily interesting for him, which has not happened as of yet. Speaking of people making a return, as bizarre as it may sound, for the first time in over 10 years, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, whatever you want to call him, teaming up with his former M&M tag team partner, making a return last night to All Pro Wrestling. It's the first time we've seen Joey Mercury and Johnny Impact come together in quite some time. They made a great return. They took on Reno Scum, had a great match. They came out on top. They were the victors. Definitely look for that match online. It is something you can find on YouTube. All Pro Wrestling puts out some great shows over on the West Coast. This was something really cool to see. Of course, Joey Mercury still does a lot of work for WWE as an agent and whatnot, but he still makes occasional appearances in the ring. And this was a cool one to see that they still have the chemistry they had back when they were a tag team 10 years ago, despite the fact that they're significantly older now and further along in their careers. And, of course, Joey Mercury, probably nearing the end of his in-ring career, but cool to see them in the ring one more time. The only thing that was kind of strange is there was no Melina, which makes a lot of sense considering Johnny Impact is engaged to Taya Valkyrie. But it would have been nice to see all three of them together. It really would have sold the package, and I think for one night only, you probably could have found a way to make that happen. That's the only thing I would have hoped for, but, we'll take what we can get. On the news front, the Global Force Wrestling brand, there's a lot of conjecture about what's going to happen with the brand name. It was, NWA TNA, and it was just TNA Impact Wrestling. Then we got the whole Global Force Wrestling influx, and now the absence of the Global Force Wrestling logo in their promotion for Bound for Glory, going to be held in Ottawa, Canada. But the concern is what are they going to do, rebrand again? And it looks like that may be the case. Josh Matthews appearing on one of their media calls this week kind of alluded to that it's time to rebrand anyways. And I don't know where they go from this, if they stick with just the Impact Wrestling moniker or if they come up with something more creative. Hopefully they come up with something creative, and this time stick with it, run with it, and don't make these rapid changes. You just paid for new championship belts, you have all that money invested, and now they're already going to change names because they didn't lock up the deal with Jeff Jarrett for the Global Force Wrestling name before they had issues with Jeff Jarrett. So, and a lot of people in Global Force Wrestling apparently not expecting Jeff Jarrett to come back anytime soon, if ever. So, definitely leaves them in a precarious position, not having a real identity as far as a company name. But they are steaming right along and doing well, hopefully bound for glory. This past week's episode was one of the highest episodes rated for the year, so clearly their viewership is up. They've been putting on and focusing on more wrestling in their product rather than all the constant conversation and promos like a lot of WWE programming. So hopefully this is a good thing. Competition is good in the world of pro wrestling, so I'm actually happy for Global Force Wrestling or Impact Wrestling or Anthem Wrestling or whatever they call themselves. I'm happy that they're starting to see some small successes, and hopefully that can build into a much more stable and exciting brand. The last thing we want to get to tonight is Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor 15 show taking place last night. A lot of highlights in the show. I'm going to go through some of the biggest ones, including Kenny King defeating KUSHIDA for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. This was an incredible match. KUSHIDA always puts on a show, and I think that Kenny King does not get the respect that he deserves as being one of the best wrestlers. When you look at the smaller, more mid-card WWE-style guys, he really does have a great skill set. He is a talent that I think has been underappreciated for many, many years, and it's nice to see him get an opportunity to walk around with that Ring of Honor Television Championship belt. In addition, Jay and Mark Briscoe are in an interesting situation after losing in their bid for the six-man tag team championship. You got to see Jay Briscoe Bully Ray with the table rather than helping him use the table, and Mark Briscoe looking at his brother in total confusion, not understanding what was going on. Clearly this will lead to something between Bully Ray and Jay Briscoe, but you got to wonder where Mark is going to fall in the grand scheme of things. And the Young Bucks at that show, they were promising a victory, retaining their tag team championship, but it was not to be. The Young Bucks lose the Ring of Honor tag team championship to the Motor City Machine Guns in what is really just a fantastic tag team match. There was some outside interference from Kazarian and from Christopher Daniels, but in the end, the Young Bucks pick up the win and take, for the first time, the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see them get a run with the belts. Let's see how long that run lasts for when you have somebody like Kazarian and Daniels coming up behind you trying to get those belts, and of course the Young Bucks looking for a rematch. And in the main event, Cody Rhodes, the Ring of Honor World Champion, taking on New Japan Pro Wrestling superstar Minoru Suzuki in what was an extremely physical match. Suzuki, a real stiff worker, and he really had Cody in a bad way several times throughout the match. In the end, Cody hits his finishing maneuver, the Crossroads, and picks up the win. It was kind of an awkward Crossroads to finish the match, but it got the job done. Cody wins, and the bizarre part was after the match, he made Minoru Suzuki kiss his Ring of Honor. In the ring here in Quicktown Farmers Market at the WWWA show, Roadblock just got pinned by King Kalua. What a great match. You really got to see some of these shows sometime just to see what you're missing. If you've never been to one of these, please go out and check one out in your local town. There's got to be certain professional wrestling promotions in your area. Check them out. You're missing out a lot of times with some of the best talent in the world of professional wrestling. We're here now for the WWWA World Heavyweight Championship match between Ken Andrews and Harzang. This is a great match. Harzang's really giving him everything he's got. Ken Andrews pretty much run through just about everybody they have on the roster so far. I'm actually wondering who it is that's going to knock him off his perch. He's held the WWWA World Championship for months now. And if you've never seen him perform, he is a guy that really is at the top of their food chain. He is a great wrestler, tons of experience, and he really puts on a great show every time he's out here. He really knows how to get crowd reaction. So for people who have smart marks and think they know everything that's going on in the business, you really got to watch this guy work at an independent show because he puts on such a great show. He really, for the people who really are attuned to what goes on in the wrestling business, he's one of the best people I've ever seen to watch up close and personal because he really gives you a glimpse into how a really good heel works without all the choreographed nonsense you get in World Wrestling Entertainment. So definitely check out matches with Ken Andrews on YouTube if you can. Also wrestles for Susquehanna Wrestling Organization, which is an outfit near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Just great wrestler, great storylines, and I'm just waiting to see who it is in WWWA. I expect at some point tonight one of their other stars, Molson, will appear and attack Ken Andrews. He's been waiting for a World Championship shot for weeks now, and I think that will be the next big feud for Ken Andrews, is taking on Molson. But we're going to have to wait and see, because tonight it's Harzang's turn, and it looks like he does not want to go down without a great fight. And so after Ken Andrews picks up the win over Harzang, Molson does hit the ring. He attacks Ken Andrews, which would set up the angle that I was expecting. Unfortunately, things have changed because Ty Reno has come out to challenge Molson. This is an unexpected turn of events, but as a huge fan of Ty Reno's, I think he'll do a great job in the ring with Molson. They are beating the snot out of each other right now. This actually holds the promise of a great match. This should be tons of action. King Blackie out here acting like he's the other referee, which is hilarious. That is Ty Reno's tag team partner in the Gunners. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us in the next episode for all the latest news and rumors in the world of professional wrestling. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects in today's show. Tonight's episode was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking on the link in the middle of the page. And don't forget to shoot over to our website at frowrestling.com for all your higher education needs. Don't forget, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more news and rumors, go to thesportsjunkies101.com. That's THA sportsjunkies101.com, and check out the latest articles in the world of professional wrestling. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.